Welcome to the jungle, everybody. Josh the RV Nerd here with Bish's RV down at the Jayco RV display. Today we're going to take you down to your knees and looking through all kinds of different motorized things. That's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be taking some fast walk-through flyby footage of a whole bunch of different members of their entire motorized series to give you little sneak peeks of what's coming up here. And what I need from you, I need to kind of know what interests you the most and what you'd like me to try to focus on. I don't get a chance just because my daily haunts don't tend to run me past a lot of motorized stuff. I don't get a chance to get as much of this as I know you would like. So if you can help me prioritize the time that I do have, I'll definitely get out there. Now, I've already done a similar video like this for their travel trailers and another different video for their fifth wheels. So if you want to get an idea what's happening more in their towable divisions, we've got all that for you. I'm also going to chapter mark today's video so you can jump around from like unit to unit. Let me know which ones interest you, and let's get rolling because we had a lot of ground to cover. So let's start our little flyby tours here with the Redhawk SE series. This is your, rank and file, just workhorse of a Class C for the folks that maybe still punch a clock for a living. What they've done here is a couple really smart things. Now, the SE series is available on either the Chevy or the Ford chassis. So that is one thing that gives you a little bit of cool options there. And what you're going to see through the whole family is they've done some decor touch-ups, some appliance tweak-overs. But notice that refrigerator right there. To me, that was the most obvious and impactful change they made to this series. Instead of that really small gas-electric fridge, they now have gone to a 12-volt compressor fridge, which is faster cooling, higher capacity. When you have a bigger battery bank and like engine and everything on board to keep things topped off, it just makes a lot of sense to me. Now there's a couple other small little details like the cushions. It sounds dumb, but they added Velcro to them so they stop slip sliding out from under your butt every time you sit down on those things. And it's those little kind of quality of life details like that that they focused on here. There's very little in the way of like major changes, but you see how they kind of shave back the headrests on those seats a little bit? That's something you're going to see through a lot of their Class Cs. A lot of those things really felt like they were sort of pushing your head forward constantly unless you angled the seat back a lot, and that could kind of cause some weird lower back strain, Now, moving up for the Redhawk SE to the full Redhawk that we're looking at right here. At a glance, it looks very similar to before, but it's what's up front here. They've basically adopted the Greyhawk front nose cap along with this thing. So it's the same full front, molded nose cap. It actually sleeves over the sidewalls and the roof to take that seam away from an area of high stress to put it in an area of low stress. But they've also included in it that front windshield with the power shade. So every single Redhawk model that you saw before, it's easy to miss this, but it just looks bigger and more expansive and provides better viewing now because of that. Now, all of your Jaycos, they're very cool and consistent about this. Any forward over cab sleeper that you find, whether it's a Class C or a Class A, has a best-in-class 750-pound rating. I've seen some Class A diesel pushers from some very nice brands with as low as a 250-pound rating up there. And there are some other brands that do a good job in that, but Jayco has always done one of the best. And look at the side splash. And that's not just wallpaper. They are really starting to key into some of those key details. Like, again, the 12-volt fridge. For years, I've been shocked they haven't even offered it as an option, but it is now standard. But here's the thing. With these things going to these 12-volt fridges, two-way gas electric fridges have actually become harder to find and very expensive from suppliers. So 12-volt compressor fridge is standard here, and I don't believe there's a swap out on that unless I missed something. But you may have noticed how you have some factory standard solar up top, and when you're going down the road, your vehicle can help charge those house batteries. Plus, you have a generator built on board, so we have multiple ways of providing solar to this, and they're also still prepped and ready for a portable solar panel. So if you want to park in the shade and chase the sun with a panel, you can do that. Again, when we move up from Redhawk to Greyhawk, this is kind of like moving from Redhawk SE into Redhawk. It's everything you had and then more. And this poor fellow right there that you saw tucking something into his shirt, everywhere I went, I happened to keep bumping into him. So you're going to see him guest star in the video a bunch of times. Now, when you move up to Greyhawk, you move from that rubberized roof membrane to that full fiberglass roof cap. This is where you start to really differentiate Greyhawk from so many other Class C's. That basically it has the same roof as a lot of Class A's and almost diesel pushers, where you've got that big candy-coated hard shell on top of it right there. Now, your Greyhawk has also, again, adopted that front window shade, and this one doesn't have theater seats, but in models that do have optional theater seating, it's now a power theater seat, so you can just push the button. And what's cool about power seats versus the ripcord style is you can kind of soft raise your legs up or down to that sort of sweet spot to sort of get the pressure and the tension and the stress off your legs, you know. Now, Jayco has continued to include extra seat belts where they don't need to, like that dinette bench on the left there that faces toward the back of the RV. They're not required to put seat belts there, but anywhere that they do, they exceed minimum federally required safety ratings by at least 10%. So they're keeping with their commitment for family safety, like the better tires. You saw the sticker I showed for the 2+3 year warranty. They're still one of the only motorized manufacturers offering anything beyond a base 1 year warranty for the RV section of the thing. Not to mention they have that 3-year structural coverage, and consider the fact that they also have all the chassis warranties that go on top of that. Now, this 27U model has continued to be their #1 seller because, if I'm not mistaken, it's like just under 30 feet and offers a king bed slide in the back plus a living room slide. It is really a big series of dynamite in a pretty manageable package. Now, this was a very interesting surprise to me. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. You also have paint packages available on these Greyhawks, and all the paint packages you're going to see through the family. You'll have like one that's silver, one that has brown tones, then one with like a little bit of a blue tinge. This was what I was saying. This was a major surprise. This new Greyhawk XL. This is bleeding the line between a conventional Class C and a Super C, like a Seneca, riding on an F550 chassis with a 6.7 liter diesel power stroke. It is something where, it looks and feels a lot like a Seneca, but it costs multiple tens of thousands of dollars less than a Seneca. And I can't tell you, every time I showed a Class C video last year, everyone always wants to ask, yes, but is it available in gas? And there's almost no diesel conventional, or I'm sorry, they would ask if it's in diesel. I'm an idiot. There's almost no diesel conventional Class Cs out there until you get into that Super C Freightliner chassis market. This is a really cool thing. I'm very excited to see what happens with this. Now, when you step inside, it still reads very much like a Greyhawk. It doesn't have that quite Seneca rugged feel. But again, it's like potentially $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 less, depending on which model you're looking at right here, while still giving us that like extra power for diesel, the strong towing capacity. Or when you're going to go up and down through mountains, diesel doesn't lose its horsepower like gas can. So if you're going to go cross country, you're going to go through the Rockies or the Appalachians or anything like that, you do want that diesel capability. And you see how you're getting like the bigger 16 cubic foot, 12 volt compressor fridge there. You're getting some of those bigger, nicer things. Because overall, this is very similar to that 27U. It's just the 27U on steroids. That's what the XL series of Greyhawk is going to be for you here. And that overall exterior look of it, I think just immediately sets it apart. And I love how they tweak that bathroom around right there. Now, from there, we move over to the Seneca XT series. And this is like the more rugged version of the Seneca family. Kind of think of it like the Ford Bronco of the Jayco Motorhome lineup, where it still has a little bit of that wild edge to it right here. And look at this, a no-slide Super C. Frankly, I don't think there's enough no-slide motorhomes out there, period. But with no slides, anything bouncing around, like this is really designed. If you want to get off the paved roads, you want to get out there in the mud and the blood, you want to get into, those more interesting and exciting areas, that is where this one comes in. You've got that nice cargo pass through, crazy good window coverage on this with no slides on the campsite. You have room for maximum patio space. And I think if we're calling a spade and a duck, if you've ever heard of the company Living Vehicle, like their Earth Mover series, I think that's kind of what they're sort of tapping into here. When I first walked in, there's the front over cab bed, okay, but I didn't see like a normal bed. And at first I was really weirded out about this. But as I went through it and I realized like, you know, if there's just one or two of you, you could still sleep on that rear lounge without needing to fold anything down. But the entire rear lounge folds down to one giant mega bed. And I mean, it kind of grew on me. And then the longer I spent in this, I realized something. This is like a Class C or a Class B motorhome, a B van that is just on absolute steroids. I know I said that it's like something else on steroids, but it's also like a B van on steroids. Think about it. It's a no-slide, straightforward model, but this is bigger, it is wider, it is taller, it is super rugged. Now, back over the more conventional Seneca series, this is still like, this is big and beefy, but this is something where like you want to go down the road. You want more than a 7,500-pound tow capacity. You want the ability to tow like up to 10,000 pounds here. You want that diesel power. That's where this comes in. Now, in that previous Seneca XT series, because it's made to get in the middle of nowhere, Starlink up on the roof is actually factory standard on that. Obviously, you have to pick up your own subscription, but all the hardware is done for you. When you get back into this here, this is a little more polished and refined. This Starlink is still available, but as an option. So you do still have the ability to kind of take this one out in the middle of nowhere, but maybe not quite so off the beaten path as the XT series. Now, up here in the big Senecas, you'll have things like, you know, the nice inverter to be able to run a lot of your household outlets when you're off-grid, and you start to get those more plush features like the Class A motorhomes, but something that is still technically a Class C. But here's the thing, that Freightliner chassis and the suspension, I've test-driven tons of motorhomes at this point. These are some of the best riding and best handling motorhomes I've ever been in my life. You know, even I like the Precept and the Precept Prestige series that we're going to see, and they do have that J-Ride ride enhancement package. But to me, it does not match what this does. If you're going to seriously like go on the road a lot, you're going to do some work camping, you want to do some full timing, that's where this one might come in. And when you get into this more comfort series, you actually have a power lift headboard series on the bed, and that exposes this padded little sit-down boot bench area. Very kind of residential look and feel concept, and it makes the bedroom look and feel even larger. Now from there, we step up into the Seneca Prestige series, and things like the optional Starlink, of course, are available here. But you see how, look up at the roof, you see the crazy mounts up top. These are now starting to pick up some features like armless awnings that go over those slides. Like that's the Seneca roof, and here's the Seneca XT series. Again, anything from Greyhawk up, we're getting that full fiberglass roof construction. So everything very heavy duty, very rugged. You still have seals to maintain, but there is vastly less maintenance that has to go into one of these. And I think the moment you step inside this, you can immediately start to see the difference in the decors. It almost feels like when you go from a common Class A motorhome to like a Class A diesel instead of the gas model. And you start to get all those nicer features like the better countertops, the glass induction cooktop. Now this one right here, they make couples and family models. This one happens to be the bunk model, but you can also kind of repurpose that into like just cargo space or closet space if need be. Again, we have that power lift kind of bed there for that extra comfort feature. You're getting the bigger king beds in these as well, which is something that a lot of your conventional C and A motorhomes don't offer. You know, availability for things like big washer dryer in these. So if you're looking for that potential comfort full timer capability, that's really where the Prestige series of the Seneca comes in. The Seneca feels like, yes, I spend a lot of time on the road. I'm going to spend a lot of time in my RV. Maybe I'm working on the road, but eventually you go home. And this feels like you're taking your home with you right here. It just has a little bit warmer and thicker kind of fulfillment sort of feeling to it. The electric tech package, the Bluetooth package that you have in these is also fantastic. And as funny as it is, my favorite feature about it, you can just push one button and turn like all of the lights on or off. And a lot of rigs, like, yeah, it'll catch your ceiling and cabin lights, but these have like a full-on master lights out package, which is something I really like. Now, jumping over into the Class A segment, the Alante remains pretty much unchanged, but I don't think they needed to mess with anything here. It really hits the notes of everything that's really important here, or if you're wanting a little bit more than what a Class C offers. And one of the coolest things about these is like a Redhawk and a Greyhawk are nice. And some of the Redhawks and Greyhawks, you can spin the front cab chairs around to regain living space in the living room, but it never feels the same. It kind of feels like your butt is sitting just above the floor. That's a major difference between a Class C and a Class A motorhome. When these chairs spin around, you know, you don't really feel like you lose anything. You're just you're getting more of it. So like if you had a 32-foot Alante versus a 32-foot Greyhawk, the Alante is going to look and feel bigger inside and just generally more open and more comfort. Now the Alante series is where they still stay restrained. It's not like ultra budget focused, but they don't necessarily go incredibly up level and beyond. Now they're tucked away, but in any place you're seating like that sofa right there, there's also going to be more of those seat belts. And that's a really cool thing with Jayco Motorhomes. They make sure that every model can seat belt at least as many people as it sleeps, if not more. Now the Alante series and the Precept that we're about to see, that does run on that Godzilla V8 that you get, you know, from Ford. And just like I mentioned previously, you've got multiple different paint packages. So before you saw kind of the silver one, that's the kind of blue silver tinge, but they're doing the same thing through any of their paint packages, whether it's Class A, B, or C, where you've got like one with like tan streaks, one with silver, one with that little light ice blue right there. Now, Precept takes Alante and it graduates it a level beyond things like the more comfortable like theater seating arrangement, the power theater seating. You start to get more televators, solid surface counters. All of your look, see, feel, touch things get upgraded to the next level beyond, and you start to upgrade to things like a true you know, dual air system, you know, bigger refrigerators, more cold storage, and again, I have to give him so much credit for including side splashes behind the stovetop. I can't tell you how many RV manufacturers have told me, well, we'd like to do that, but, you know, it's really hard for production to do it. Well, you know what? These guys are managing to do it. Obviously, somebody figured out how to do it. That sounds like a lot of excuses to me. I'm sure it costs labor. I'm sure it costs time and money, but you know what? Bacon grease does splatter sideways, and frankly, I like knowing that. Now, all of your Class C and Class A motorhomes from Jayco have a minimum 7-foot ceiling clearance. Some of them in some areas might actually go a little bit beyond. Now, in the Precept series, we don't have things like the power head lift in the bed area like you would from the Seneca series. The Seneca is kind of interesting because it sort of puts like diesel pusher features in a Class C shape, and that's kind of the trick with motorhomes, and you sort of see that whether it's the Class A's, B's, or C's. It's not like one clear line from bottom to top anymore. There is some weird overlap and exchange. Now for Precept, we go to Precept Prestige, and things like paint packages are standard. And where it says blurring the lines, what I mean there is this is a gas motorhome. But what they did is they brought into it a lot of features from a diesel kind of motorhome, where you've got far superior like latches and baggage doors and catches and everything right there, like gas strutted, so not just swinging open in the breeze. Everything in this starts to feel a little more upscale. Now, a Precept Prestige and a Seneca, those two things are actually fairly comparable, but kind of one being gas with a Class A cab, and then the Seneca being that diesel on the Freightliner chassis. But overall, they overlap and they stack up against one another, you know, very, very heavily right here. Again, they both have those heavy ride and handling packages. The Precept Prestige does enhance that further from the Precept, because that's a big Jayco thing. They want getting there to be as comfortable as being there. But in the Prestige, we start to pick up things like not just washer, dryer, prep, but just a washer, dryer, because this is intended to be something where, again, you do spend that extended, that seasonal time. Like maybe you're going to snowbird camp or sunbird camp, and you have a home, you know, in the north during the summer, and then you're going to use this to get down south, or, you know, get away from the weather in the winter. That's where one of these comes in. So that extended time, the washer dryer starts to make sense here. The enhanced livability features, that all starts to come into play. Now your front windshields in all these Class A's are going to be a power shade, which is just push button easy. And while you're driving, it actually does have like a limiter so that it can't come down so far that you know, lean on the button and accidentally blind yourself. Now jumping over into the B vans, this little thing kind of caught my attention, and this looks like a fun little weekender. The little Comet series here. This is actually kind of a new little brother to the Solstice series, and overall in terms of equipment, Comet and Solstice are very, very similar. The Comets are just going to be even more compact, more affordable, smaller, and if it's just you traveling for a weekend, it's not, multiple people, this would be just an amazing solo runaround. And I tell you, these little guys, the way they ride and handle is absolutely fantastic. Still with 200 watts of solar up on the roof to give you, that if you do want to kind of park out of the beaten path a little bit or do some, Walmart driveway parking, you can do that. So to oversimplify it, a Swift that we're looking at here, even though it came before, a Swift is just a bigger version of the Comet, but it allows for all kinds of different floor plans, like bigger rear bathrooms or something like this with a big rear lounge and the power fold-down bed. You'll have opportunities for like more kitchen facilities, and basically you'll be able to get more of those things all together in one coach. And yeah, it's a few feet longer, typically about 3 feet longer, something like that, but it still just feels like you're driving a van down the road. It doesn't feel like something where you need a big, CDL to get this giant monster machine going down the road. But when you get there, if you want a little bit more extra space, you're using it for more than just, a road stop driver, that's where that comes in. Now, Swift is very interesting because it's obviously very similar, and you have things like options for those rooftop tents. There's also options for the Swift Lithium series that will expand on the solar and the battery capacity greatly. And what they did really with the Swift this season, kind of like Solstice, they just made certain things easier to access, like your battery monitor, for instance. Instead of it being buried where you couldn't find it, they put it up by the command center where it makes more sense. In basically all of their B vans, they've enhanced things like stereos. You have optional Starlinks. And 12-volt refrigerators, which is kind of nice. But when you go with the Lithium series, one of the things that they did, it was previously an available aftermarket option, but they just built it on standard now, a high idle kit. So if you're sitting there running off just battery power because they, don't have quite the propane capacities and facilities that the other things do, obviously, you can, your engine can auto start if your batteries get low, and it can high idle to make sure you're charging those. Now, from there, we move over to the Terrain, which was introduced a season or two ago. And this is the Jurassic Park 4x4 adventure van is what this is. With like 400 watts of solar up on the roof. Again, the big lithium battery banks. All sorts of things. Now, if you really compare things like Swift and, like the Winnebago equivalents, and we sell all those different things, like, Thor has some of their own versions. A lot of people will say pound for pound, feature for feature. They think that the Terrain is like one of the best buys of all these sort of 4x4 adventure kind of jobs right here. And they are coming out with a couple new floor plans. This is just the only one that they had available there. Now, that is a power drop-down bed. So if you want to use that like a cargo space, it's available. One of the things I was a little surprised to find is they actually removed the air compressor from these Terrains. But moving on from there to the Granite Ridge. This is smaller than the Terrain, but it really feels like if you're like one person or like one or two people who are really cool with being very close together, and you want to get in the middle of nowhere, and you want to take like mountain bikes or e-bikes or something like that, that's where this one feels like it comes into play. It feels far more like you're going to be hanging out on some mountain trail for the weekend. It's smaller, easier to navigate, easier to tow, easy to park. That's another thing a lot of motorhomes don't do very well. They're just not easy to park in anything except a big giant semi truck kind of parking lot. But like right there, if you take that front tire off, and they even thought to include the netting on it, like someone was using their dipstick, Jimmy. You've got the perfect place in the back. Like I've seen people with bicycles that run over $5,000. There's no way if I had a bicycle that was $5,000, I'd leave it sitting, hanging off the rear bumper of my RV, bouncing down the road, exposed to all sorts of elements. People, I don't think, realize how much dirt and grime the wind suctions around the backside of your rig. Typically, the back of your rig will often be one of the dirtiest things after you get to a destination, which seems weird. You'd think it'd be the nose, but it's not. It's usually the back. But having, the ability for like twin to king vertible bed in there, an onboard bathroom, I was really shocked at how much they packed into that. Now back over into, the Melbourne series here. This kind of blurs that line between like a B plus and a C. And frankly, there's not a whole lot of difference there. And my biggest encouragement to people when it comes to B plus versus C is don't get your head wrapped around the nomenclature of it. Ask yourself if you like the RV or not. It doesn't matter what class we call the thing. They haven't changed a lot on these. They were really focusing on new development and some of the other things. But I mean, for years, these have been dialed in. But that 12-volt fridge, once again, moving up from that tiny 6 cubic foot fridge to the new 12 volts that are higher in capacity and faster in cooling, and just make a lot of sense with the already onboard solar and generator things that you get in a motorhome. To me, just really, really worked. Now, what's very confusing is previously you had the Melbourne and then you had the Melbourne Prestige, which was kind of like just a trim package. So we were looking at the 24R, and this is the 24RP, but they are not remotely the same floor plan. The Prestige Melbournes are really kind of finally coming into their own as their own sort of like upscale luxury mobile Euro comfort package, for lack of a better way to say it over here. This is very similar in the layout to the 26M Redhawk that we saw with a power Murphy bed, whereas the one before this obviously had that full wall mega slide. But once again, if what you want, like you want lots of space when you get there, but you want something that's easy to drive, this is that really cool in-betweener where, you know, it's not super compact like a B van where you feel like you're borderline pooping in a bucket sometimes, but it's also not so large that you're white knuckle freaking out like you feel like some of those bigger Class C and Class A motorhomes. That's where the Melbourne series comes in for me. And the only real hiccup that I have with them is when you hit the accelerator on that turbo diesel, there is a second before the turbo kicks in, but other than that, once you're going down the road, these are beautiful for ride and handling. So thanks again for tuning in. Let me know which one of these is your favorite. And once again, in case you didn't catch them, and you're sort of wondering what's happening in the towable divisions, I have a couple other videos. I'll try to remember to leave some links for you in the video description. You can see what's happening. One video, just their travel trailer lineup. One video with just their fifth wheel lineup. Because they had so much here, I didn't think there was any way I could try to condense it all into one big flyby video. Now from here, I'm going to break away and try to read your mind and get ahead of the curve and get some deep dive footage of as many of these as I can. And if you want to see what I come up with, make sure you hit that subscribe button and check us out later. Chances are the footage I'll be having from this event will roll out over the next several months because it's going to take me a long time to get through all this because there's a lot to see here, ladies and gentlemen. When you're ready, we're ready. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.